Hi there. Welcome to Travis Laughs. This is where I practice stand-up. I stand by myself out in the middle of a field. I record for like 45 minutes or an hour, and then I edit that down to 6 minutes of what's hopefully a little bit funny. And I do all of this so that I am prepared when enough people have had their vaccinations and it's safe to go back into a crowded bar. I am prepared to stand up in front of people who are drinking or drunk and try to talk louder than their conversation to make them laugh in the 300 seconds I have before the light flashes and tells me to get my ass off the stage. So here it goes. Beautiful day here in Alaska. I love my state this time of year for a couple of reasons, but one of the funniest ones is that I enjoy so much hearing people get angry about the weather. How come it's so cold? Why is it still so cold? Can you believe how cold it is? I mean, yeah, a little bit I can, because even though I'm not a scientist, I do know that about 372 miles that way, there's this dish-shaped thing called the Arctic Circle. And yeah, that means I'm like 6,600 football fields away from a place that is always cold and always icy. Or at least it was up until recently. For all I know now, they might be putting in the world's largest avocado farm. But anyway, Alaska let me know what it was all about back in 1992 when I first came up here to visit. I was driving the road system and I went through a whiteout blizzard on my birthday in the last half of May. It's like the state was like, oh, you have weather expectations? Please do tell me all about them. And while you're doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and poop a snowman on you. My son is a really cool guy. I really like him. He's got a good heart, but he's also got an amazing sense of humor, and he says and does hilarious things all the time. Doesn't really like me talking about him when I do stand-up, though, so of necessity, I also have another son, which after great deliberation and plenty of time spent looking at the family tree, I decided to name the other one. So a few days ago, the other one comes into my room and says, here's a joke for you, Dad. The little stork walks up to the mom and dad stork and says, hey, you guys, where do babies come from? This guy. He's very sensitive to anything racial, anytime people are unjust or condescending to minorities or to groups that maybe have less power than others. He's right on it. The other day I said something and I thought, wow, that sounded kind of like Mandarin. So I repeated it again with sort of Asian lilt, and he said, Dad, that's racist. So I had to explain the difference between racial and racist and talk about intent. But then I thought about it, it's actually probably a good thing I've got him as my little Jiminy Cricket, because comedians have this sneaky thing that they do where we can tell racist material using a mechanism. Like, for example, the other day, I thought of a joke about Christopher Columbus and Donald Trump, but I don't want to take the heat from people that love Donald Trump getting mad at my jokes, and I don't want anybody to get upset with me for telling a joke that involves Native Americans. So all I do, check this out, I just distance myself from the joke. You guys ever work with somebody who says something and at first you're like, well, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard, but then a year later you're still pondering it? I had this guy say to me, isn't it weird that we're losing Columbus Day during the Trump administration? I mean, has there ever been a president more like Christopher Columbus? I mean, Christopher Columbus basically shows up and goes, hey, after we came across the ocean with our beautiful ships looking for India, here it is, you're all Indians. We're not, this isn't India, and we're not Indians. That's like, yeah, it was the best voyage. We were looking for you. Here we are. You're Indians. No, this isn't India, and we're not Indians. Look, it was a beautiful journey. It was the best boats. Here we are in the place we're looking for. But look, I know what my sailors were up to in every port we stopped in. They're all basically walking germ pools. So let's just agree that in a couple of months, most of you won't be here to care what we call you. In other words, it's a good thing I have my son to keep an eye on me. One of the advantages of doing comedy live, of course, is that your Bluetooth microphone never suddenly fails to synchronize with what your face is doing, forcing you to film the end of your set all over again. But here we go. So I was really excited. I got my forestry conservation catalog in the mail today. Pretty cool stuff. 424 pages of wonderful ideas on how you can protect the environment. And I thought that was sort of like my thing. Other people probably weren't into that, but it turns out my paper boy, who was coming by to collect for my 2 subscriptions to the newspaper, I get 2 because my wife and I both like to do the crossword puzzles every day. He was coming by to collect for the dues, and he saw me pulling that catalog out of my mailbox, and he's like, "You get forestry conservation too?" And I was like, "Yeah, you do?" And awesome! And I was like, "Did you finish last week's, it comes out every week. Did you finish last week's subscription?" He goes, "Yeah, and I recycled it." And I was like, high five, and we fist bump, because, you know, we're better than most of you. And that's actually supposed to be a joke about the irony of using unrenewable resources and excess energy in order to fight the use of unrenewable resources and energy, but really also it's kind of coming from a place of I've developed this real need to experience that Arctic avocado. I mean, California being on fire and Texas being in a deep freeze, that's not going to do it fast enough, people, which is why I implore you, please go to dumpsterfillers.com and order as many catalogs and useless magazines as you can so we can crank the heat up in this sucker, all right? Because I really want to try that North Pole guacamole, maybe with a side of Santa salsa. All right, thanks for hanging out, you guys. I'll see you next time. Thanks. What? No. How could that be racist?